Hello, welcome to the next edition of basically talking about decks in general, what decks have performed recently, the changes in the meta game. So we're going to discuss that right out of the gate, and then we're going to talk about 4 decks that I think have got 5-0s that are interesting and they're not top tier decks. And I kind of want to shed some light on them. So, traditionally, let's get into this. So, Rakdos mid-range is on the downtick. 15% in the meta is still decently proportional. Then we have Green Devotion, Azorius Control on the rise. Green Devotion's on the downtick. Gruul Vehicles, because of Green Devotion's on the downtick, Gruul Vehicles is on the uprise, which makes perfect sense because Karn is the equalizer in this matchup. And the fact that Green Devotion has not really seen a lot of play lately. And then Mono White, because Mono Green is dying, is on the drop, which makes total sense because Mono White is great against Green Devotion. It gets overpowered by Gruul vehicles and Rakdos mid range. So the matchups are just gotten annihilated. Angels are on the uprise at 3% because it's really good against Gruul vehicles. It's also decent in other matchups up here. It does a good job, right, at being a solid mid-range threat with multiple ways to fight Rakdos with Collected Company and Kyla's Reconstruction. So the fact that it's on the rise makes perfect sense. And then Lotus Field combo's on the rise as well because it's good against Rakdos mid-range, is good against Azorius control. So solidifying itself as the best combo deck. As you can see down here, the one that's on the huge drop is it Phoenix. This was basically everywhere. It was basically a trio format. Phoenix, Devotion, Rakdos. Now, Phoenix is getting played less than Parhelion. And then Gnemic Incarnation is on the rise because it was really bad against Green Devotion because it cares about value. Value doesn't matter if the game ends on the spot by a combo. So it's on the rise now, which means I think Pioneer's in a better spot because Green Devotion I think is not good for the format in general, but that's a different story because it is such a highly dominant deck that has a combo finish, which basically will push out a lot of the value-based strategies out of the format, which traditionally you want them in your format, which Modern is filled with those types of decks. And of course we have a little bit of uprise down here too as well. While Mono Blue Spirits is on the downtick, looks like Spirits is just kind of dying, which is no complaints here. But the fact that Dimir controls on the rise is a little... I'm not a fan of it. So, let's get into the 4 decks that I'm going to talk about today that I think are sweet. And we'll go... Yeah, let's get into it. Hello, it's your host, KebbieG. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button. Also, the bell notifications. Don't forget to check out the sweet stuff that's down in the description down below. So, the first deck we're talking about is a deck that I found. Some of these were found by other members of my Discord because I did make a channel for it. So, if you're interested, the link is in the description to join my Discord. And if you find sweet deck lists that you would like to see me be featured in this conversation, definitely post them. I'll evaluate them and then I'll pick them up. But so what intrigues me about this list, clearly it's Bring to Light. It is not it's not Niv, right? So, and it's also not Dread Presence. So this is a interesting turn of events where it's not really Escape Shift / Dread Presence combo win. It looks like it's more of a value engine trying to get that value. There is no incarnation, so it's very weird. I'm not exactly sure how to feel about this deck, but I'm glad that it's showing up. It's a interesting change, right? Ooh, there's a Combat Celebrant in the sideboard. So this is definitely a deck I think that is interesting to me. I think it could have some potential legs in the future. 2 Valky is a little bit much, especially since you don't ever really want to have it in hand unless you bring the light. If you have to bring the light for multiple copies in a given game, something seriously is wrong. You do have a decent amount of removal with Chain to the Rocks and Leyline Binding, so it is a very interesting deck. I'm not sure exactly sure if I want to try it myself, but I think this is a deck if you want value in the current format, but you're not really a fan of Incarnation, and I guess Dread Presence isn't your thing. You want like more of a modern feel. This would be the deck for you. So let's get into the next one. So at the end of last year, Jun Midrange won. Now, what's interesting about this list, so instead of playing Is It Creativity, this deck wants to play, where is it? Oh, Transmogrify. And the advantage of Transmogrify is necessarily we get to still play artifacts. So we have a decent backup plan versus Is It Creativity, where you can't play Zekish Chariot because it interferes with the creativity. So we can also play Briefcase, which is a decent card by itself. It ramps us, it's a token. So like there's so many things that this deck gets that the other version doesn't, due to the fact that we don't necessarily care. It is also interesting that Ob Nixilis is in this deck, and we get to run Kihira as a companion. So thank you, Draken, for this sweet deck. It looks pretty awesome. We do have Careful Cultivation, which is one of the cards I think is good for even Is It Creativity, or creativity in general. But we have Fable, which is common, a Crowan War, so we could take their best thing and destroy it. I wonder why Creativity doesn't try this card. That is an interesting approach, especially against like mono green or stuff like that, where you just take their Cavalier, kill it. And the top end is, of course, Titan of Industry, which is not as game-ending as Worldspine Worm / Xenaghost combo, but it's a card you can naturally cast, and it's just good. So, then we have a Luca, which is basically the 5th Transmogrify attached to a Planeswalker. That's kind of meh, but outside of that. And then, of course, we have Rendering Volley for Mono White, Spirits. It's also, I guess, I heard is good against, is it Phoenix? So you can maybe shoot down Ledger Shredder or the Thing in the Ice. So we have Gruul Charm. This also looks like it's targeted for Spirits. We have Hirsch for Graveyard Hate, Go Blank for Graveyard Hate, Extinction Event for aggro. We have Chandra is a way to fight through control, looks like. And then Void Winnower. I'm not exactly sure who this is for, but I'm intrigued to see how it actually pans out. It is an interesting swap out you could do with Titan of Industry. Just keep in mind it will make you... Oh wait, Nightmare. Is this a Nightmare? No, just an Eldrazi. So it will get rid of Kihira, but that, I guess, in whatever matchup that's for, it's a good... you expect to do that. We have Castle Karenbrig in the mana base for a little bit of ramping in her mana, which is pretty cool. So that is Jun Midrange. Thank you, Draken. Like I said before, this deck is awesome. I'm glad I found it. I know people in my Discord are pushing me to play Creativity. Actually, I might want to try this list instead. It looks more interesting to me, and it looks potentially like a stronger deck. So let's get into the next. So there has been some results getting put up from Jeskai Ascendancy. And it's kind of interesting. It's not 4-colored Ascendancy, which would be the version I think would be better. But this deck is putting up some results. So that's kind of cool. We do play 3 dig through times as a way to dig for the Ascendancy, which is honestly the weakest part of this deck. This deck does not have the Ascendancy. This deck basically doesn't do anything. So keep that in mind. It's very dependent. So the fact that it's running 3 dig through times, hopefully find this card, but you could still end up digging halfway through your deck and never finding this card, and you end up just losing. So keep that in mind. It has a little bit of a risk reward, but it is putting up results. Ender W is one of the people that was putting up results. I think there's 3 of them that put up results recently with this deck, and I projected to do more. It's still up for debate if it's honestly better than Lotus Field as the go-to combo deck, but this deck I think feels more like a traditional combo. So if you're more into like Storm and stuff like that, this is a little bit closer to your play style. Versus Lotus Field is more like, I don't know how to put my word on it, but it feels more like a mid-range combo. This one feels like an all-in, like one turn. Like you have like that. There's a different feeling, I feel like. Even on the opponent's side, facing this feels less boring than facing Lotus Field. I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but this deck has been putting up results. And you can see why. The deck has some resilience even out of the sideboard for different matchups. Silence for control, volley for removal, hole for the artifact-based decks, as well as the elves. We have Pithy Needle for Karn. So we have Iconoclast that we could bring in addition to Saheeli if it's a matchup where they have maybe heavy enchantment removal. You could definitely do that as well. We have Radiant Flame for a little bit of sweeper, and a Redain to push out certain, like, I don't want to say sweepers because it's not really as relevant, but there are certain situations where you're going to want to push something out even further to prevent you from interacting with your board. So that is Jeskai Ascendancy. Let me know in the comments what one of these decks so far you like the most. And after this video, there should also be a modern video dropping with, I think it's like 5 or something like that. So I'm hoping I'm putting out good content. Let me know that down in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe before we get into this last deck. So the last deck of the day is Bard Class. It is interesting to note there is some huge changes in this list from the list I've seen before. We are playing Felidon, which is an interesting piece to include. We also have 4 Hajar, which I ran 3 in my video, but definitely 3 Burgi. So then we kind of cut probably a Burgi for a Grungoli. I'm not sure why we're playing Tovolar. We don't really have a lot of wolves or werewolves, so I'm not really sure about that one. And then I think 3 Xenagos is right. 3 Domri. I love Domri. And the thing that's really throwing me off here is this Wish. I'm not exactly sure why this Bard Class is playing this Wish, but it definitely makes it a much more spicy list than traditional Bard Class. I mean, there's some decent, very cheap effects that we can grab with it. You definitely are never going to get Ember Cleave. Because you may cast a card you own from outside the game this turn. So, could you do that? Wish, pick Embercleave, attack, decrease the cost of Embercleave, cast Embercleave? That could work. There's also this weird Jace. I'm not exactly sure how you're going to cast this thing. That is something that I don't know. But Tybalt, kind of cool. So like I said, there's some interesting choices. I don't know why the Wish. I would be very curious to talk with Soggy Cheerios. So if you're watching this video, Cheerios, if you would like to just to explain the Jace, I am interested in finding that one out. Because I just don't understand how you, for one, you could even cast the card. So you produce red and green everywhere. I guess Jingothic taps red blue. Oh, wait. Oath and Nissa. That's right. Yeah, so Oath and Nissa, you can cast this for any colors. It clicked. So, like I said, if you like this list, make sure you smash that like button. So that way I know that this is the kind of content you guys like. and as well as subscribe, because I want to hit 250. I will do a special video for 250 because we're the 4th way there. So until next time, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.